Chosen ones, listen closely. People tried to break you, not because they understood you, but because they didn't. Every hit they took at you only made you stronger. From the start, they didn't hate you for being weak. They hated you because you were powerful enough to expose the lies they lived by. They saw your light before you did. But instead of standing with you, they tried to shut it off. They came at you with envy, lies, manipulation. They wore fake smiles and called themselves friends and family. But behind those masks was nothing but bitterness. They didn't want to lift you. They wanted to tear you down from the inside. Because trying to steal your power felt easier than facing their own emptiness. But here you are, still standing, still rising. Before we go deeper, pause for a second. Like this video. Subscribe. Not for me, for the ones still in the dark, still doubting themselves. Every light pushes this message to someone else who needs it. Let's wake them up. Let's fuel their fire. Let's talk about why your path is different. Why your mission isn't for the faint of heart. You already know it. Not because someone told you, but because you've lived it. This isn't just hype. This is spiritual warfare. A battle against old pain, old patterns, generations of silence. You carry a name that draws both light and attacks. You didn't choose this, it chose you. You're the first to carry what others couldn't even name. Most people would have folded. But you kept moving, even while shattered. You made the impossible look effortless. You weren't picked at random. You were crafted, forged in fire, stripped of illusions, strengthened at your core. That's why it's been so hard. That's why people walked away. That's why what you tried to save had to fall apart. Where you're headed is too high for the ones who secretly hoped you'd fail. Admit it, doubt crept in. You wondered if you were the problem, if the attacks were your fault. But that confusion was their last weapon. When they couldn't break you physically, they tried to make you break yourself. But you didn't. Even in your lowest moments, something deep inside whispered, "You're not done." That whisper wasn't a dream, it was your purpose. You were born to break chains, to carry answers others were too afraid to seek. Your very presence makes people uncomfortable because it reveals their shadows. You didn't just survive, you exposed them. You didn't shine out of arrogance, you shine because truth can't stay hidden forever. So now, no more shrinking. No more pretending you don't know your power. You've done the impossible already. Own it. If you're ready to turn your solitude into strength, drop 77 in the comments. That silence you thought was punishment, it was preparation. The distance, it was protection. The path is clearing. Now, let's break this down. If you've ever felt crushed under the weight of something invisible, if you've walked through fire that no one even saw, then this is your confirmation. You were chosen. And chosen ones don't walk easy roads. They tried to laugh at your pain. They whispered behind your back, hoping you wouldn't rise. But you did. And now they can't look away. What broke them built you. You didn't just carry your own struggles, you carried generations of unhealed pain. You inherited trauma, not comfort. You were told to deal with it like pain was your destiny. But something in you said no. That's when everything shifted. That's when your calling woke up. And of course, so did the attacks. Because when a chosen one wakes up, the whole system shakes. You weren't chosen just to survive. You were chosen to interrupt. To say, "It ends with me." That's not just poetic, it's war. Cycles don't break quietly. They resist. They scream. But you kept choosing healing. You chose discipline. You chose solitude. And in doing that, you triggered everything that wanted to keep you small. That's why it's been so hard. Not because you're cursed, but because you're the one strong enough to fight battles no one else could. And yes, you doubted yourself. You saw others live easy lives while you carried pain like a backpack full of bricks. You felt invisible, forgotten, but you weren't forgotten. You were forged. You were shaped in fire, in betrayal, in silence, not for applause, but for purpose. Your isolation was your training ground. Your depression taught you discernment. Your anxiety sharpened your awareness. Your breakdown? It became the foundation of your rebirth. Look at history. The ones who changed the world, they didn't do it without suffering. They rose because they endured. There are people in this world who say something different about you. They may not fully understand it, but they know it's powerful. From the beginning, people have tried to tear you down, not because you were wrong or weak, but because they couldn't handle what you represented. They saw strength in you, a kind of truth that could unravel everything they had built around lies and illusions. You weren't hated because you failed. They hated you because they knew you had the power to expose their weaknesses, even if you didn't realize it yet. They saw your potential before you did. That made them uncomfortable. Instead of embracing the light you carried, they attacked it. They didn't fight fair. They used envy, lies, manipulation, and twisted truths. They tried to ruin your name and plant doubts in your mind. Many of them acted like they cared, showed up as friends, family, or mentors, but deep down, their actions didn't match their words. They weren't there to support you. They were there to sabotage you. Why? Because breaking your spirit seemed easier to them than facing their own lack of courage or purpose. And yet, despite all of it, you're still here. You're still breathing, still standing. You've been through things most people can't even imagine, but you didn't let it destroy you. In fact, it shaped you. Every attack, every setback, every painful moment helped mold you into someone stronger, wiser, and more powerful. What was meant to destroy you actually refined you. If you've made it this far, it means you are not just surviving, you are awakening. You are starting to understand who you really are. And before we go any deeper, take a moment to pause and share this message. Because it's not just about you. There are others like you, people who are still stuck in silence, still questioning their worth, still unsure of their life. This message needs to reach them too. Let them know they're not alone. Let them feel seen and heard. Now let's talk about the journey. This path you're on, it's not an easy one. Being chosen doesn't mean being lucky. It means being given a role, a task, a calling that's heavier than most people can handle. You didn't just inherit your own problems. You inherited emotional wounds, generational pain, trauma passed down like family heirlooms. You were born into conflict, not comfort. You weren't given tools, you had to make them. You weren't shown love, you had to learn it. And for a long time, you probably thought something was wrong with you because of how hard everything felt. But the truth is, there was never anything wrong with you. What was wrong was the world around you that taught you to carry pain quietly and pretend everything was okay. You were taught to suppress your emotions, to avoid standing out, to stay silent even when everything inside you was screaming for more. For a while, you may have gone along with it. You tried to fit in, to shrink yourself, to not rock the boat. But that didn't last, did it? Something in you refused to stay quiet. Something in you knew that you weren't meant to carry burdens that weren't yours forever. Eventually, you started asking questions. You started waking up. And when you did, everything changed. The attacks became louder. The resistance grew stronger. That's not a coincidence. The moment a chosen one starts stepping into their purpose, the system that kept them small starts to push back. You see, your light disturbs the darkness. Your growth exposes their stagnation. Your healing threatens their control. You weren't chosen to just survive. You were chosen to break cycles. You were chosen to stop the damage that's been passed down through generations. You were chosen to be the one who says, "This ends with me." And that's not a small thing. That's a heavy responsibility. It means you've been through more pain than most. It means you've been betrayed, misunderstood, and left out more times than you can count. But none of it was random. The universe wasn't punishing you. It was preparing you. It was equipping you with strength that doesn't come from comfort, but from struggle. You were being forged in fire. You probably asked yourself more than once, why is this happening to me? And the answer is simple, even if it's not easy to accept, because you are strong enough to carry it. You are strong enough to break the chains. You are strong enough to transform the pain into purpose. Most people inherit money, traditions, or knowledge. You inherited wounds. And somehow, you've started to heal them, starting with your own. But healing is hard. Growth is painful. Choosing to be different, to rise above the dysfunction, to walk alone when necessary, it hurts. You've had to let go of people you loved. You've had to walk through storms in silence. You've had to rebuild yourself from nothing. And still, you rise. That strength scares people. Your resilience makes others uncomfortable. Not everyone will cheer for your healing. Some people will resent it because your light reminds them of their darkness. Your strength makes them face their weakness. And that's why so many people tried to stop you. Not because you were doing something wrong, but because you were doing something right. They couldn't break you with insults, so they tried silence. They couldn't destroy your path, so they planted doubt in your mind. That voice that told you you're not good enough, you're imagining things. Maybe you're the problem. That was their last weapon. They wanted you to turn against yourself, because if they couldn't defeat you, maybe they could convince you to give up on your own. But you didn't. You might have stumbled, but you kept going. You might have cried, but you didn't quit. You might have questioned your worth, but deep down, something always pulled you back. That quiet whisper in your soul saying, "You're not done." That wasn't a fantasy. That was your true self reminding you of your purpose. You were born to be a chain breaker, a truth teller, a light in the dark. And now that you know who you are, it's time to stop apologizing for it. It's time to stop hiding, shrinking, second-guessing. You didn't come this far just to turn back. You were meant to rise. Your story isn't just yours. It's the beginning of someone else's healing. When you step into your purpose fully, you give others permission to do the same. You become living proof that transformation is real. That pain can lead to power. That silence doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, remember this. The weight you carry would have crushed most people. The fire you walked through would have burned most to ash. But here you are, not just surviving, but thriving, glowing, rising. You are proof that being broken doesn't mean being defeated. It means being rebuilt. Let them talk. Let them wonder how you're still standing. Let them watch as you continue to rise higher than they ever expected. You don't owe anyone explanations. You don't need approval to exist loudly. You're not here to play small. You're here to shake things up, to change the game, to bring light to places where it's long been missing. If you've ever felt like the black sheep, the outsider, the one who didn't belong, it's because you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out, to lead, to awaken others. And your story, your survival, your rise, it's the evidence that chosen ones don't just make it through the storm. They become the storm. Stop thinking you're just lucky to be here. You're not here by chance. You were chosen, called, and built for everything you've been through. You didn't just survive the fire, you became it. Every time life tried to break you, You turn the ashes into fuel. You turn pain into power. You've walked through storms that should have destroyed you, but instead, they revealed who you truly are. People don't fear your words, they fear your strength. They fear your calm presence, your resilience, your refusal to stay down. No matter how hard they tried to stop you, you kept rising. Every obstacle, every heartbreak, every betrayal only added to your strength. They watched you lose things that mattered, yet you still held your head high. They saw you fall, but you never stayed there. That's why they're confused. That's why they stare in disbelief. You're still glowing in places they thought would be your grave. That glow, that energy, comes from being chosen. It's something deeper than luck or talent. It's purpose. And here's something important. The people who tried to dim your light saw it before you did. They recognized you were different. You thought you didn't fit in because something was wrong with you, but the truth is, you didn't fit in because you were meant to stand out. You weren't made to blend in. You were made to shine, to ask questions, to dig deeper, to feel more, and to rise higher. From early on, people sensed that they couldn't mold you. You didn't follow the crowd. You saw through the lies. You didn't settle for surface-level answers. And that made them uncomfortable. Not because you were doing anything wrong, but because your strength revealed their insecurities. Your healing made them face their unhealed wounds. Your growth put a spotlight on their stagnation. And when people feel exposed, they either rise with you or they try to pull you down. That's why some people turned on you out of nowhere. They were fine with you when you were struggling. They could handle you when you were unsure. But the moment you began to value yourself, to love yourself, to step into your power, they flipped. Because your confidence showed them what they were missing in themselves. You became a mirror they didn't want to look into. And instead of facing their reflection, they tried to shatter the mirror. But even after everything they did, the lies, the gossip, the manipulation, you still had compassion. You still tried to explain your pain. You still gave second chances. Why? Because you have a good heart. You wanted them to understand. But here's the thing. Being chosen doesn't mean being comfortable. It means being stretched. It means facing trials. It means being tested before being trusted. It means being broken before being built. You can't ask for your purpose and also ask for ease. The two don't go hand in hand. Purpose costs something. It costs comfort. It costs fake friends. It costs staying silent just to keep the peace. But now you're starting to see clearly. You're starting to feel the shift, and so are they. The universe always knew who you were. Now you're remembering it too. No more shrinking to fit in. No more doubting your worth. No more apologizing for being the one who rose when everyone else collapsed. Let them feel the weight of your rise. Let your peace be louder than their chaos. Let your light do the talking. Because while they were busy trying to destroy you, all they did was build you up. What they meant for harm only made you unstoppable. They plotted behind closed doors. They smiled to your face while sharpening their words behind your back. They twisted the truth and tried to control the story. But you didn't play dirty. You didn't fight the way they did. You didn't scream or retaliate. And that's exactly why they're losing. Because chosen ones don't need noise. We rise in silence. We let our growth speak for us. While they whispered, you were working. While they spread lies, you were healing. While they spiraled in drama, you stood in peace. And now their own actions are catching up with them. The truth always does. They thought your silence was weakness, but it was wisdom. It was divine strategy. It was trust in something bigger than you, because the universe doesn't miss. It sees everything, every word, every intention. every betrayal. Now they can't rest. Not because they feel guilt, most of them don't, but because they're terrified that the lies they built their world on are starting to collapse. They're afraid people will start to see what really happened, and they will, because energy never lies. The universe keeps receipts. The truth always finds a way out. And you never had to raise your voice. You never had to fight back in their way. You just kept growing. You just kept choosing elevation over ego. And that's your greatest revenge. You didn't need to destroy them. Their own choices are doing that for you. Stop asking if you overreacted. Stop wondering if you were too sensitive. You were never too much. They just weren't enough. You were targeted because they saw something powerful in you. Something they didn't have the courage to activate in themselves. If you had bowed to them, they would have kept you in chains forever. But you didn't. You stood tall, and that exposed their intentions. That forced them to show their real faces. Now they're stuck in the lies they told. The web they spun to trap you is now trapping them. The stories they told to make themselves look like victims are falling apart. Slowly, painfully, publicly. And the people they turned against you, they're starting to notice the cracks. They're waking up. Your peace is speaking louder than their noise ever could. They thought they won, but all they did was dig their own grave. The mess they created is swallowing them. You, on the other hand, kept walking, kept rising, kept choosing love when you could have chosen revenge. That's why you're winning in ways they can't even understand. They thought they buried you, but they didn't know you were a seed. You've grown, you've bloomed, and now they can't even reach you. You're out of their grasp, not because you're hiding, but because you've elevated. Look back, not with doubt, but with pride. Their betrayal wasn't your ending. It was the beginning of your breakthrough. They played every trick in the book and still lost. That's what haunts them. Not what they did, but the fact that it didn't work. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Your life is proof. Every breath you take, every peaceful step, every silent success, it's all proof. And they feel it. Every time you post, every time you move forward, every time you keep living, they break a little more inside. Because deep down, they know they lost a war they started against someone who never even lifted a weapon. You were too busy healing, too focused on becoming better. And that's what destroyed their narrative. You didn't fight back with chaos. You fought back by evolving. Now the truth is rising. The story is shifting. And they're trapped in the roles they created for themselves. The masks are slipping. The lies are unraveling. And there's no one left to save them from the consequences. Every day, the truth tightens around them like a rope. Not because you cursed them, but because you didn't collapse. That's the power of being chosen. You don't have to destroy anything. Your rise is the only revenge you'll ever need. You're not just here. You're not just surviving. You're thriving. You're glowing. You're walking proof that light wins, that truth wins. That strength, real strength, doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to last. They watched you like a movie they couldn't stop replaying, fascinated by your every move. But it wasn't admiration. It wasn't love. It was envy hiding behind curious eyes. They studied your strength, your light, your growth, as if your life was a guidebook they could copy. But what they never understood is that your glow wasn't something they could imitate. Your shine wasn't some switch you flipped on. It was born from pain, from moments that nearly broke you, from nights you cried in silence with no one around to see the weight you carried. They thought you made it look easy, walking through storms, still holding your head high. lighting the path for others as if the chaos never touched you. But what they didn't see was that you were walking through fire, flames you never asked for, but you kept walking anyway. And that's what made them uncomfortable. That's what made them jealous. Because you kept moving, kept glowing, even when everything around you tried to dim your light. They tried to copy it. Your energy, your voice, your style. They borrowed your words, wore your aura like a costume, and tried to convince the world they were made of the same stuff. But they didn't come from the furnace that shaped you. They weren't built in the fire like you were. They didn't know what it felt like to break in the dark and pull yourself back together with trembling hands. Your glow came from surviving battles they never even knew existed. It wasn't about looking strong. It was about being strong, even when no one was cheering. They tried to mimic your energy, but it wasn't sustainable. Because what you have isn't a trend. It's truth. It's resilience. It's authenticity. When they tried to wear your light, they ended up choking on the very fire that gave you life. Because it was never just about looking the part. It was about surviving what the part required. Your light wasn't decoration. It was proof. Proof that you've endured, healed, and rebuilt yourself again and again. They assumed your power came from confidence, but they missed the part where it came from deep wounds and long nights. From every time you whispered to yourself, just one more step, when giving up would have been easier. You've cried in silence while smiling in public. You fought battles just to get out of bed. You faced doubts so deep they threatened to erase everything you believed in. But you kept going. You kept standing. And that's what makes your glow untouchable. You earned it in moments no one saw. They only ever wanted the result, not the process. They wanted to skip the suffering and still claim the reward. But that's not how true power works. They tried to claim your crown, not realizing it wasn't made of gold, but of broken pieces you refused to let define you. Every shard was a moment that hurt you, but you shaped it into something beautiful, something real. They didn't understand that. They never wanted to. They thought they could copy the look, but not the path. They assumed your strength was easy, just a look, a move, a vibe. But it wasn't. It was forged in storms they would never survive. And now they sit confused, hollow, lost, wondering why their imitation feels empty. Why, no matter how much they act like you, they can't summon the same peace, the same energy, the same presence. And here's the truth, they were never supposed to. Because your path was built for you. Your flame answers only to your name. The universe doesn't bless imitation, it blesses alignment. And alignment is something you earn through every hard step, every breakdown, every victory that came without applause. So don't shrink just because they tried to clone you. Don't dim your light to make others feel comfortable in your presence. Their failed imitation doesn't mean you were too much. It means you were the original, the real one, the only one. They thought they could be you by watching you, but they never lived your pain. They never held your burdens. And now, the very glow they tried to wear is burning them from the inside. They acted like your crown was a trophy they could snatch. But they didn't see what it cost you. The loneliness, the rejection, the painful growth. They didn't see the nights you felt forgotten by the world, wondering why you were the one who had to carry so much. You cried out, "Why me?" Not because you didn't want to grow, but because it hurt so much to grow alone. You whispered those words into the night, hoping for answers, wondering if you were being punished. But every time you asked, the answer remained the same, because only you could. You see, not everyone is meant to walk this path. Not everyone has the strength to face themselves, to do the healing, to keep moving when life keeps knocking them down. But you do, and that's not weakness. That's power. You weren't abandoned, you were set apart. Not because something's wrong with you, but because your purpose required space. The people who couldn't breathe your air weren't meant to. Your path needed isolation, because growth like yours can't happen in the noise. You thought being chosen would mean being celebrated, but being chosen often means being targeted. You expected applause. You got silence. You expected support. You got betrayal. But even through all of that, you didn't quit. And that's why your life is so powerful. Because it's honest. It's earned. It's real. They didn't fall because you cursed them. They fell because they tried to carry something that wasn't theirs. The weight of your journey was never meant to fit their shoulders. And now, their masks are slipping. Their copied confidence is cracking. Their borrowed energy is fading. Because you can fake a lot, but you can't fake alignment. You can't fake endurance. You can't fake survival. And you didn't just survive. You became the flame. So let them fall apart. Let their imitation unravel. That's not cruelty, it's natural. It's the truth catching up. Because pretending is easy until it's tested. And the tests you've passed, they were built just for you. Customized pain, tailored growth. No one else could have walked your road, and now it's clear why. You keep asking, why me? And the universe keeps answering, because no one else could. You were the one who could carry it, who could grow through it, who could turn it into something sacred. The same battles that nearly ended you are now the reason you lead others through their own storms. So stop playing small. Stop questioning your worth just because others tried and failed to become you. Their confusion isn't your problem. Their failure to keep up isn't your fault. You were never meant to be copied. You were meant to be honored, to be respected, to be remembered. Your light is not a look. It's a legacy. Your presence isn't a vibe. It's a statement. You don't just influence, you awaken. And not everyone is ready for that. So yes, they tried to copy your glow, but they collapsed under the fire that created you. Because that fire, it doesn't destroy the chosen. It shapes them. Let them burn if they must. Let them sit in the smoke of the image they tried to steal. Their downfall isn't karma, it's exposure. And your rise, that's destiny. You didn't just survive the fire. You are the fire. Sometimes it feels like everything and everyone disappears just before something big is about to happen in your life. The silence can be deafening, the loneliness unbearable, and you start to doubt yourself. You wonder if you misunderstood your purpose, if you were ever really meant to walk this path at all. Maybe you begin to believe that if it hurts this much, it must mean you took the wrong turn. But that pain you're feeling, it's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign that you're being transformed. This journey is not meant for those who shy away from discomfort. Your tears don't represent weakness. They are part of a deeper process of cleansing. The times you felt isolated weren't punishments, they were preparations. While others were distracted by the noise of the world, you were deep in your own growth. While people around you ran from their pain, you stayed with yours. That kind of courage is rare. That's why it hurts, because you are doing the hard work most are too afraid to do. You're not only walking your own journey, you're also healing wounds that go back generations. You're breaking cycles that have existed in your family, your culture, maybe even your ancestors. And you weren't chosen for this role because you had it all figured out. You were chosen because your spirit was strong enough to carry this weight and still keep going. When you ask, why me? Maybe the real question is, why not you? Who else could have survived everything you've survived? The betrayal, the abandonment, the self-doubt, the heartbreak, and still you rise. Still You hold on to your values, your truth, your integrity. Many would have broken, given up, or turned bitter. But you chose to grow through it. You chose to let your pain shape you into something stronger. This is why you were chosen. Not because it was easy, but because you had the strength to evolve. While others complain at the first sign of struggle, you turn pain into wisdom. You don't fall apart, you transform. You've done it before. When you thought you'd hit rock bottom, you discovered inner strength you never knew existed. When you lost people you thought you couldn't live without, you learned to breathe even deeper on your own. You've been laughed at, doubted, misunderstood, and yet here you are, still standing. And now that you're beginning to rise, don't you dare shrink. Don't go back to old patterns or places that no longer fit. Don't apologize for evolving. Don't question whether you deserve this path. The truth is, you do, because you earned it in the fire. When you disconnected from people, places, or habits that no longer served you, it wasn't a breakdown. It was a breakthrough. You were letting go of things that couldn't come with you to the next level. That's why your body has felt off lately. The sleepless nights, the emotional waves, the tension in your chest. It's not dysfunction. It's transition. You are being upgraded, and upgrades require a system reboot. That means rest. That means discomfort. That means releasing anything or anyone that doesn't align with where you're going. Some days you feel energized and clear. Other days you feel like you're barely hanging on. That's okay. You're not broken. You're just shedding your old skin. This process may feel like chaos, but that's only because growth doesn't always look graceful. Like a caterpillar in a cocoon or a snake shedding its skin, it looks messy. But what emerges after is renewed, stronger, lighter, clearer. You are being reborn, and yes, that hurts. But it's also holy. We often mistake discomfort as something going wrong, but discomfort is often a sign that something new is being birthed. You're not off course. You're being realigned. The universe didn't bring you this far just to abandon you. Everything that feels like it's falling apart is actually making space for something greater to come through. You're not just healing, you're ascending. That's why things that once made sense now feel foreign. That's why people who once felt close now feel distant. It's not you changing in a bad way, it's you stepping into your next level. And not everyone can come with you. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you've changed. Your growth is sacred. Your healing is personal. And while others may gossip, judge, or try to pull you back into the old version of yourself, you don't have to go. You've evolved. You've upgraded. Their opinions don't get to decide your destiny. If you feel like everything around you is crumbling, it's because the life you once knew can no longer hold the power of who you're becoming. That tight feeling in your chest isn't an ending. It's the pressure of your next form trying to emerge. It's the weight of all your unexpressed potential pushing its way to the surface. Let yourself cry. Let yourself feel tired. Let yourself rest. But do not give up. Do not run from this process. You were made for this. You've already walked through storms and fires that would have ended someone else. You're not just surviving. You're evolving into someone even more powerful than before. This isn't about proving yourself to anyone else. It's about showing up for the version of you that's been waiting to rise. The version that knows how to lead, how to love, how to heal. You don't need permission to become who you were always meant to be. Just keep going. You're not here to stay small. You're here to make an impact, not just in your own life, but for everyone connected to your legacy. Every ancestor who whispered strength into your bones. Every future generation watching what you'll build. You are carrying more than your own story. You're carrying a movement. And yes, it's hard. it's supposed to be. Real growth always is. But it's worth it. You're being positioned for something greater. So stop looking for signs that you're breaking and start seeing all the signs that you're breaking through. The chaos, the discomfort, the exhaustion, they're not signs of failure. They're signs of becoming. You are being molded, refined, and elevated. And though the process is intense, it's creating a version of you that is unstoppable. So breathe, cry, rest, but don't retreat. You're not collapsing. You're transforming. You're not falling behind. You're stepping into alignment. And you don't need to question anymore whether you're chosen, because you are. Now walk like you know it. Speak like you believe it. And rise like the world has been waiting for you, because it has.